is wrong and it's 1800, so we'll go ahead and start our meeting. If everybody would rise. Carol, would you do the honors to start our meeting, Pastor?
Yep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, open for public comment. I don't see any members of the public, so I'm guessing there are no comments. We were distributed the March 5th minutes and the amendments of correspondence. First, ask for a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
Second.
So moved. Where do you go, Dan and Crystal? On the question, comments, discussion, observations? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Apologies to Robert. Dan shouted from behind you, so I was not calling you Dan. Correspondence, Mr. Zemrak.
Received enforcement notifications for Michael Gonzalez. Received course approvals for the, I said it all out, course approvals for EMT courses. We received notification from Erie County they're going to submit operating authority application for conversion from municipal to full operating authority. New York State Department of Health, more enforcement notifications, and New York State Department of Health another EMTA class at ECC.
Do we have to read the enforcement notifications into the record?
Sure, it's for the doctor, everybody, so I don't know if we do.
Ms. Rowinski, do you know if we have to read the enforcement notifications into the record in full, or is it enough to cite them as the correspondence line?
Technically, you're supposed to.
That's fine.
Not everyone does.
I like following the law. So, the first and foremost notification was Michael Gonzalez, 373272 for violation of New York State Part 800.3 AP. His license was surrendered 3/25/25. Enforcement notifications for Mark Dalton, 307321 for violation of 800.3 AL, suspended for 1 year effective 4/23/25. The suspension is stayed pending no further violation of the PHL, Article 30, or Department of Health Part 800 for a period of 3 years. You assess a civil penalty of $1,000, and that's it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Oh, definitely.
Treasurer's report, Ms. Barber.
I submitted the treasurer's report. If anyone needs a copy, if they weren't able to print one, there's a few up here. To date, we've spent $5,807.97. There were 3 quarterly payments to UEMS. I did make the 3rd quarter payment as we agreed at the last meeting, I believe. Was it the last meeting or executive board? And a laptop was purchased for the secretary, along with ink cartridge. Not much else has come in to be paid. Does anyone have any questions? The quarterly claims were submitted for the 1st and 2nd quarter. I have not received them electronically yet. I had to provide some additional information, but they should have gone through. And the 3rd quarter is about to go in.
Thank you. Any questions from Ms. Barber? Going fast. Okay, REMAC met
Should I
on,
accept the treasurer's report?
There was one other thing, Brian. I had received another invoice from UEMS for the 4th quarter, which would be April through June, that I should hold, because we'll discuss that.
yeah,
Okay.
we have that in new business,
great.
so if there's no objection. Motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
And, John? On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. Carries unanimously. Excellent. Document. For Medical Advisory Committee, the REMAC met on March 19th. Was the last meeting. A lot of discussion about the changes to the UBMD program agency. As everybody here likely knows, we'll pick up most of it in new business. But UBMD has discontinued its affiliation with New York State as a program agency due to a lack of a contract and falling in arrears for payments due to UBMD. We'll do all of it during new business. STEMS is still operating in the southern tier and WEREMSCO to the left, so the state basically has program agencies still in effect around the state. The only two councils who are affected right now are our council and Big Lakes, which is Niagara, Orleans, and Genesee. So we'll pick on that. Collaborative protocol update is coming July 1, so keep an eye out for those things. They didn't have anything from QI. There was a brief discussion from the Western New York EMS Stroke Committee. Catholic Health and Clyde have been doing some great things collaboratively, getting information out, focusing on education around the BFAST exam. If you're interested in hosting that or an opportunity, you can reach out to Emily James or Nicole Hames. If you need contact information, we can provide that as well. But they're doing a lot of outreach. The Interfacility Transport Committee is still doing work, so we're still operating on the rollback to the 2011 IFT protocol. I don't know that there's an expected time. Anybody here serving on the IFT committee? Okay, so it doesn't seem like there's any rush revisiting some of the issues. Most of them were around level of care and scope of practice. So a whole lot of stuff there. And then they reviewed a antibiotic policy and training PowerPoint from Dr. Pareda. Hopefully that will be adopted with the July protocol changes and discussion about the use of antibiotics pre-hospitally and where that applies in our protocol. And other than that, it was a lot of pro forma approvals. So if anybody's interested in those, I have them, happy to share them with you. I think that was all from the REMAC, unless somebody else who attended had notes. Okay, next REMAC meeting, I think, and I was trying to find it on my calendar quickly and couldn't. I think it's next Wednesday. Anybody want to confirm, deny, rebut? Anybody at all?
Should be on your site, right?
If you can access it, I got a 404 when I tried to get to it.
Easy. I was on there earlier.
Next one on my schedule is June 18th.
Yeah, I see June 18th as well.
June 18th, okay. And is it at Twin City?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, June 18th to Twin City for the next REMAC meeting. That's their last before their summer hiatus, so if anybody has anything for REMAC on 6/18, anything for REMAC? Okay, does somebody have a report for, I guess I can do state council and we can have everybody else chime in. Overall, the meeting, which was last week, which is why we're meeting this week, was pretty light on the agenda. It seems there's a lot of things moving, a lot of reports about committee progress, but there wasn't anything really new. Big highlights are the budget items that we talked about in our last meeting. None of those actually were adopted into the resolved budget for 25 or 26. The bad news is there was no increase in funding. We had been hopeful that there would be an additional $20 million, at least in Medicaid money. That did not come through. The Finance Committee for the state doing a ton of work. They talked about all their initiatives, but primarily they're focused on the stagnant reimbursements that flow to state contractors, specifically highlighting program agencies as having not received an increase in an estimated 30 years. So program agencies are still operating at what they were operating at in 95. Obviously, we all know the expense and cost of doing business has increased substantially in that 30 years, coupled with the issues surrounding contracting. They also pointed to a number of surveys in terms of surveying paramedic students about how they're paying tuition, if it's scholarship, if it's grant, if it's self-pay. Surprising report came back at 80% self-pay, and course sponsors really couldn't provide a lot of information about it because they just get told that the bill is paid and not who paid the bill. So I think they're gonna be revisiting that and trying to get more information, but that goes to the discussion around state scholarships for paramedic education. And there are a couple of them that more information will be coming available pretty soon. I just had a call on the way down that there's a state, can't remember the name of it, but there's a state grant that basically includes paramedic education as one of the approved disciplines for somebody who is going back to school to increase their learning potential or advance their career. And there's a very specific subset. They have to be between the age of 25 and 55 and a couple of other factors, but I imagine that the paramedic programs in Western New York will be pushing out information about that as well. Leave that for finance. On the education side, there were updates about education continues, courses are being approved, they're still working on the skills exams, the field training officer concept, the practical skills exam pilot, where they're gonna move to a portfolio instead of just demonstrating the skills that we usually see. The course funding tag that originally come back with a recommendation that course sponsors could charge tuition in excess of state reimbursement. Got information from the state that right now, no you can't, but we're looking into it, so more to come. Beyond that, I think that the education and training agenda or addendums were largely adding other things to the chair of training and education's plate. So he had a bad week, but I think everybody else came out okay. Legislative regulations talked about the Part R and all the stuff that didn't make it, and took a look at a bunch of bills that are in process, things like throughway relief for emergency vehicles not being charged to include ambulances, amending the general municipal law and public health law to add EMS as an essential service, tax credit bill for volunteer firefighters and volunteer ambulance workers, same thing for an income tax credit bill, extending the community-based paramedic program, which did get an extension, not what they were hoping for, but I believe they got another 5 years on community paramedicine. The real property tax credit for volunteers as well, and that was it for legislation they're looking at. Without going into all the bill numbers and everything, if you want bills or interested in state EMS legislation, let me know, happy to distribute those. Ultimately, if you're very interested in it, I would encourage you to get involved in the trade associations, whether that's commercial ambulance, volunteer fire, whatever that is. There's a lot of trade associations engaged in lobbying. We obviously cannot lobby, but it's a good place to go to get a lot of information and get active.
What about the sunsetting on the volunteer ambulances bill?
That made it through the budget.
That did,
That was
okay.
included in the budget, it's a 5-year extension.
209B, yeah.
It's still gonna sunset in 5 years.
Okay, there's a 5-year extension.
And hopefully that will get picked up and continue to be
You're not gonna let it go.
EMS systems, they spent a lot of time lauding the successes of the University of Albany 5-quad EMS program. They essentially obtained a accreditation at a gold standard. They're the 7th in the country to have achieved it. A lot of great recruiting and highlighting student involvement. It was a great discussion that got revisited 4 or 5 times over a couple of days. And there were updates about starting the 0606 advisory group back up again. That is the certificate of need process. That installed because of expectations around Part R. It is going to be active again. There is a low acuity call working group. This is for the assist type calls or EMS equivalent of cat in a tree sort of situations, trying to explore ways to maybe get those out of the EMS system or find another way to handle them rather than burdening the valuable and scarce resources that are ambulances. Still looking at hospital wall times. Continue to report through the state portal any delays that you find significant. That's up to individual providers, so they are able to report anything they want. The state does look at those, and they did report on the information that they got. I forget what all the delays were, but it was, I believe, 5 hospitals around the state. It was 1 in A county, 1 in B county, and 3 in Western New York. We all know which 3. I won't put that on the record, but not surprising that we have, at least from a reporting and data structure, some of the worst hospital clear times around the state. Safety Subcommittee continue to review and revise Policy 013, which is the Operations of Emergency Medical Services Vehicles Program. Basically a model policy for agencies to adopt and likely be associated with the training requirement. Also continue to discuss hazardous response plans, the Part 800 regulation update. The equipment update is back out for public comment. The vehicle update will be out for public comment again shortly. So take a look at the New York State Register. Those links should be readily available. We can distribute those as well to the committee or to the council as a whole. And you can read through them, comment on what you like, what you don't like in terms of the changes to the equipment standards. There's still in the works a restraint policy to deal with unruly patients, potentially violent patients. That's coming from Dr. Isaacs out of FDNY. And there's a group working on stretcher operations, education around safe operations of the stretcher, reducing back injuries, best practices, ergos, all of that stuff. Quality metrics, they're continuing to work on their performance metrics and looking at the National EMS Quality Association measures for report building and how the structure works. Always a great discussion if you're interested in QI. That's another one to jump onto. And then the EMS Innovations and Research Subcommittees, a lot of discussion around artificial intelligence in EMS and how it can appropriately be used and what the structure would look like. What we're doing with Wadsworth as a part of state health and blood regs, lab testing, CLIA waivers, all of those things. Community paramedicine, mobile integrated health, essential services, and the behavioral health care collaboration with crisis stabilization centers. And then the last one is the medical standards subcommittee. The updated rollout for July of the collaborative protocol, the update for the BLS SGA policy statement is going to allow EMTs to place SGAs in all patients. They removed the previous policy statement or draft policy statement that said adult only, so it will be approved for all patients if trained and equipped. So it's not limited to eye gels anymore. There are other things available. And I think that was the extent of those reports. Anybody else that spent 3 days in rainy Saratoga Springs want to chime in? Mr. Turner.
With the study you mentioned with the paramedics that said like 80% were self-pay, I think the key thing that was pointed out in the received responses, I think from like 20% of the paramedics students of that year. So I feel like they were kind of stressing it too much, but I think it was kind of a false statistic. I don't think 80% of the medics in the state are paying their own money. I think they're being sponsored and they're just not taking this money. That's why they were pushing off the poor sponsor. And then what was they brought up again with the vouchering system for paramedics, how they sent, I think it was 300 letters out, or it's 300, 600, somewhere around there, to medics who recently graduated and say, hey, why haven't you vouchered yet? And then we only had like 50 responses of people who vouchered after the fact. So it seems like there's a lot of money left on the table that was never taken.
To that point, there are a lot of challenges as we continue to ask for more money to come into EMS because around the state, all the money doesn't get spent, whether that's through a WEREMSCO or a program agency or wherever it is. And I think most of the people that we talk to are spending as much as they can, but not true around the entire state. Other observations from, it was pouring there, by the way. We moved to Saratoga Springs instead of Troy because apparently it was supposed to be nicer this time of year. And it was an absolute downpour. Okay, does anybody have a report for Erie County?
Oh, sure. I got the education side. So we're starting our summer semester. We'll have 3 EMT classes. One in Clarence, it's currently registered with 13 students as of today. One in Cheektowaga, that currently has 90 students as of today. And then one at Twin City, which you guys are going to do soon. 15? Sure. Yeah. Looking towards the fall, we'll have one CFR course in the South Towns. I think it's going in Sardinia as our plan. Trying to find an instructor going that way. We'll have one AMT course in East Amherst and 6 EMT courses, one in Twin City, one in Cheektowaga, one in Damon, one in Alden, one in the South Towns. I think we're targeting the Boston area, and then one in the North Towns, potentially during that. Paramedic course is halfway through the year at this point. So we're targeting finishing up at the end of October. And our speaker series, we just want to plug it because we've kind of, well, for those that don't know, we have speakers lined up at least one a month until now to the end of the year. The first one was supposed to be tonight, we just didn't have anyone really signed up. It's kind of a shame. I I think with UBMB no longer being a program agency, people want to know we're looking for it. But we found good guest speakers from, different hospital systems or county services, really anyone else to teach. We have at least one a month, sometimes two a month, and it's free seating opportunities for anyone. So we're just trying to promote that a little bit more and encourage.
Is that on the Erie County EMS site?
It is on the Erie County website. It's got its own web page. It says EMS Speaker Series. You can see all of our topics with the summary and sign up for it.
Where do you want?
Where we hold them? We hold them in Cheektowaga, probably.
Okay.
Fire training tower.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we can try to get some good speakers, and if, we're still trying to get more, so, obviously it's only May, and about a year left, right? If we get more people that want a certain topic, we'll add that on as well, but we're trying to broadcast everything. With that as well, we also offer ancillary courses, so the CPR, ACLS, PALS, that stuff we all need, but we're also adding AMLS, which is scheduled for June 7th and June 8th. We have GEMS, which is the geriatric version of National Tertiary kind of curriculum, and that's scheduled for June 21st. And then we have All Hazard Disaster Response scheduled for September. But we have CPR classes every month, PALS every other month, ACLS every other month, and PHLS every 2 months. So again, we're trying to advertise that out a little bit more, the registration's been a little low. And last but not least, we have a EMS graduation scheduled at the Buffalo History Museum on June 25th. We'll start at 6:30. What we're doing is having a graduation ceremony for all our CFR, EMT, and AMT students from the spring semester. So they're going to get a certificate of completion, and we're going to have a little ceremony to honor them, and we'll have food, and we're having history pieces from EMS history in Western New York. It'll be in the lobby there, and the museum will be put numbers too. We're hoping for good weather, unlike Saratoga. So hopefully we can have photos outside, because the Buffalo History Museum is really beautiful. And I will personally email you guys all a invite during time. We're trying to get a lot of community outreach. That's good for education. So I'll kick it off to Ken. So you got a question?
Before you hand it off, just
Sure.
any thought to live streaming or recording for rebroadcast the speaker series?
We have considered. Trying to figure out how we can do it and where we can post it. But yes, it has been thought. We can use that avenue as well.
Any questions for EMS education from Erie County? Ms. Peterson?
So from the EMS coordinator side, obviously, we are working through mutual aid in the EMS in Erie County. It's something that's been talked about for quite some time, specifically at the EMS advisory board level. So yesterday I sent out correspondence to all EMS agencies, any agency, fire-based or otherwise, that has an ambulance. Received correspondence from me in regards to basically the policy statement 1206, which has an EMS mutual aid worksheet. We've converted that to a document to have representatives from all those agencies to fill out, and that data will be collected. That will go through and review the mutual aid side of it. In addition to it, a number of agencies, even since yesterday, have shared what current mutual aid agreements they have in play and that they're working off of. So we're going to kind of go through that. And at some point, in looking through that policy statement, we're hoping that we could get a small group from this body to put together some form of a mutual aid thing and work with the coordinator's office to review the data that comes out of the mutual aid side of things, and then further give feedback back to those agencies and look at a way of making the system work a little bit more efficiently and effectively, keeping in mind all the outliers, obviously staffing and so on and so forth that's there, call volumes and stuff, but we just want to see what the foundation is in play right now from a mutual aid perspective, and what agencies are working with who, and stuff like that. So we'll be working through that process. Beyond that, obviously, from the ambulance service side, we're submitting our application for conversion from municipal to full CON. All the information has obviously been given up front. Other than that, just to kind of plug from our perspective, the joint venture between EMS and our fire safety office and Homeland Security side of it, our rehab trailer is at the disposal of any jurisdiction within Erie County. We We used it just the other night at Lakeview. Obviously, it was requested by command to the scene, and it was staffed by our personnel. We work closely with the EMS agencies on location. Once we bring that in there, it gives a heating and air conditioning option. We have an oxygen cascade and a number of ALS, BLS equipment, and also an overage of mass casualty type stuff on that trailer. So we can bring it in, set it up, and bring your folks in your jurisdiction in to utilize it, get you out of the weather, give you an opportunity to sit 8 to 9 firefighters, run vital signs, rehydrate, go through that whole process. There's a gurney in there and so on and so forth. So if there's a need to initiate treatment, we can accomplish that in there also. So it's there. It's just a call to MERS to request the rehab trailer, and we'll be happy to bring it out and staff it also. Does anyone have any questions for me from the operations side, I guess?
Just a comment that the body you're looking for from the council is the systems committee for mutual aid. It's gotta come through there and then be approved by the council, so
Okay.
working with the systems committee is the direction to take it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anything else from Erie County? I'll just acknowledge now, we've received, you have a digital receipt, if the recording works, we've received the application for conversion of municipal CON to a CON. Be scanning that tomorrow, distributing it to the systems committee, and then talking to the new systems committee chair. I hope to convene a meeting and go from there.
I will deposit the application.
Just hold on to that, we have, yeah.
Okay,
So if it's deemed incomplete, all of it gets returned in a batch, including that, so don't deposit
thank
that
you.
yet.
Until that point.
Anything else, anything for Erie County? Mr. Stryker, Wyoming County.
So, our EMS program is going well. Sent county EMS out over 1,150 calls. We're still not back up to our 224/7 ambulance operations. We presented yesterday, the emergency management office personnel presented yesterday to our board of supervisors, which is the equivalent to the Erie County's legislators, trying to convince them to bring us back to full speed and everything like that. The presentation went fairly well. They kind of shortened our timeline up last second. But we did not get an answer or ruling on it yesterday. We directed it's gonna come back to committee, which is at the end of the month, and hopefully we'll be able to push it across the finish line at that point in time. So a little bit of letdown, but we had some positive input from the floor, as well. Still running with the volunteer ambulances, about a 10% drop call rate that's been pretty consistent all year long this year. We've sent volunteers out right around 3,100 times. We as well been running a robust training schedule. This fall we are anticipating running EMT classes, CFR classes, as well as an advanced level of things come together. And at that point on the education side, I'd like to revert back to Mike. He's kind of managing that part of the program, see if he's got anything else to add to that.
No, we're still waiting on the state for course sponsorship upgrade and all that stuff, so.
Guess that's about it until later on today.
Anything for Mr. Stryker, Wyoming County? Anybody have a Western New York stress report?
The only thing I had for that was 2 notifications, 1 response.
2 notifications, 1 response?
Correct.
Anything for Western New York stress?
I could have an invoice sent for the annual, payment that we make for the Western New York Stress Reduction Team, the $2,500.
Okay.
And I can send that out as soon as I receive the invoice. Thank you.
Anything else for Western New York stress? Wyoming County First Responders Support Team, Mr. Stryker.
Yes, we've had some activity. Again, we're a peer, one-on-one type. We don't do group settings. We still utilize the Erie County program. We had them out here a few weeks ago. That went very well. We had a horrific motor vehicle accident on 20A, multiple fatalities. The check for our Madonna is in process.
Okay.
If you haven't already received it.
Thank you.
Again, and our financial system is a pain in the butt, but we're getting to that. We are still, to promote our program, going to be doing a roadshow in anticipation. We're revising the first version that we put together, and to go out to all the fire EMS meetings and, you know, promote this service that we do provide. I know my phone's been fairly busy with people struggling and stuff like that, some in the middle of the night calls and stuff like that, so it's working well. People are comfortable with it.
Is there a website or anything you'd like us to cross?
It's on our website, you know. We don't post on our website the phone numbers and stuff. We're very conscious with the team members getting called from out-of-county personnel. We're not really set up to do that kind of business or anything like that. It's more for our county providers and stuff, so. But there is advertisements on there as well. And we're working on some more deeper advertising as well to the office.
Anything for Wyoming County First Responder Support Team? Okay, committee reports, budget, Ms. Barber.
At the last meeting, submitted a tentative proposed budget, and since then, we had a very quick budget committee meeting before today's meeting, just a couple of the members, and everything is pretty much up in the air as far as program agency or lack of program agency. Under contractual services, there is an amount that stipulates UEMS. I would recommend, of course, we take UEMS out of there, maybe hold the amount until we have more particulars on what direction we're, you know, how we move forward from here. And also on the last page, the other expenses, UEMS Inc., learning management system, the council's portion, we could reapportion that into another area such as education and training, till we figure out more about where we're headed. I spoke with Mr. Brunner, and he also thought that would be a good idea, maybe ask for a motion for those changes to be made, and then hold with the budget that we have proposed.
So I think maybe call for the easier motion first, which is a motion to return the previously approved budget line to support the LMS that had not yet come into existence back to the line it came from. I don't recall what that line was, but we can visit that in a minute.
Education.
Education.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Shaw, Ms. Lapp. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Call for a second motion to maintain our existing budgeted amount for professional services from a program agency, removing specifically the UBMD attribution of that pending whatever solution we decide on for a program agency.
I'll make that motion.
Mr.
I'll
Stryker?
second this.
Mr. McCartan? On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
And as far as this year's budget, there are still some payments that will be made out of this year's budget that have already been appropriated. The annual membership meeting and training, typically we have a deposit or a payment for the hall, which Mr. Stryker will speak to shortly. That's typically around $700, $750. The invoices that'll be received from Western New York Stress Reduction, that's $2,500, and the Wyoming County First Team, $1,000. The space rental of this hall for our bi-monthly meetings will be $500, so approximately $4,700 will be spent by the end of June for that, and whatever other expenditures come in that are due and owing. Also, we'll wait for the program agency portion to discuss the payment for the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we
Okay.
do that all one.
Okay. That's all.
Anything for Ms. Barber in budget? Hearing none. Ms. Minestrella is not here. Does anybody have a membership report?
Yes, I do. So she received a application from Thomas Keene out of Wyoming County. We do have one full spot open. He is the chief and an EMT with Harris Corners Rescue Squad, which is a first responder squad. He states that, briefly describe why you wanna become a member. And he replied, become more educated on EMS systems, know how business is conducted, be proactive on new items. So we have this submission. So I'd like to make a motion to accept Thomas Keem as a full member of the council from Wyoming County.
Ms. Staffel makes the motion. Second. Ms. Lapp. Discussion. I can ask Mr. Borwinski, is Mr. Keem an EMT in good standing with New York State?
I could double check for you.
That would be wonderful. Before we call the vote, I just want to make sure we're not moving
Walking
forward.
into a mess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if Mr. Keem's later watching this, I'm not assuming you're a mess, but we
Yeah.
become skeptical in our business.
He's good.
Thank you. He's an EMT in good standing with New York State. So all in favor of Mr. Keem joining for Wyoming County? Opposed? Abstentions?
Okay, and other than that, Christina broke her tibia, so if you wanna go and give her kisses and hugs, you probably could.
Well wishes to Ms. Mestrel.
In Disney World, of course,
Both.
because that's where she lives.
Dave's got a scooter. They're both injured right now?
I guess, I have no clue. I don't know if it's a sympathy injury or what.
Maybe she fell over the scooter.
Yeah, she might have, well, I don't know.
Or got that.
She said she was with her girlfriend in Disney World, so I have no clue.
Anything for Ms. Staffel subbing for Ms. Mestrella for membership? Hearing none. Systems Committee, I will take the report and say we'll be convening a meeting very soon. We have accepted Erie County's application. We have to review to deem completeness, but we should all expect the application process and all of the things that that entails, including a meeting, hopefully in time for our next meeting, but we will have the public hearing, we will have the hearing officer's recommendation, all the steps that we're used to. So more to come on that, and we'll communicate through the Systems Committee, and unless somebody has something for me on systems, that is in the report. Excellent. Training Ed, Mr. Zemrak.
I did receive applications and, which is great because I never got them before, so. Sorry, nice. What's going on?
Applications are for classes.
Yeah.
So we are once again informed and
Yes.
excellent. Anything for Training and Ed? Hearing none. Bylaws. Also convening a meeting, otherwise no report.
I'm gonna be on that committee, and I'm gonna be kinda taking the lead on it for right now in case I get voted off the island. And basically, I'll be contacting the individuals that were interested in being on bylaws and find out what type of a meeting would be best, Zoom versus in person. And then we will be taking it from there to get these bylaws completed and pushed through the changes.
So what we have to do is convene the committee, elect Ms. Staffel officially as the chair of the committee, and then Ms. Staffel will run roughshod over all of you, and I'll watch from a distance respectfully. Anything for bylaws? Awards and PR, Mr. Striker.
Yes, the deadline for submissions for our council awards banquet that will be held on August 27th is on Friday. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, I only have 6 applications in. I know there's one more in the works. The gentleman gave me a call, had questions because he said it was due in March. Not sure where that came from, but it threw me into a panic mode that I screwed up, but I didn't. So I'm not sure, obviously our normal means of communication through UBMD is not there for us anymore, so, like Chris has sent it out to me, for me a couple times like we always have. I've reached out to the Erie County folks, sent it to Kenny to send out a couple times, and also to Chris Crew out to send out on the fire side, which is a joint effort with ambulances and stuff like that, so. To date, technically, I have none from Erie County. The one in the works is from Erie County, West Falls. The rest are from Wyoming County, so not sure where we wanna go with this. So.
First, I would ask all of you as members if you have social media and you can cross-post social media that has been put out, that'll at least extend our reach. And while we'll cover more of it under program agency, I'm hoping to get access to the distribution lists that we utilized under UBMD. If I can get access to those, then I'll happily blast that poster, the flyers, and everything else.
Okay. Do you wanna make an adjustment to the deadline?
That will be up to you and your committee. I am certainly not opposed.
Okay.
I believe the deadline was instituted to align with the state submission deadline,
That state submission's by July 1st. so
July 1st.
We do have some wiggle room. and,
So, June 15th?
I'm flexible. And
I'd make a motion to extend it to June 15th.
Okay, I'm gonna turn on the motion and 6 people on the second. So,
And there's your vote.
I'm gonna give that one to Mr. Starka, because he's been trying to get one in all night. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstaining? Opposed?
It did get posted on the UBMD website. Karen did put it up there as well, as a favor. So it wouldn't be a problem, but we'll resend it out with the new dates and push it. That's all I can say.
Sounds great. We will make sure we get the asterisk on there about the extended deadline. And for all of you, talk to your agency leadership or make nominations yourself. Anything for awards and PR? For those of you who are worried about that, by the way, it's a wonderful opportunity to go to openai.com and say, write me an award nomination for somebody. Right, we can start working in that direction. If you were worried about writing it, ChatGPT will do it for you. Hearing none, New York State DOH, we could probably change Mr. Major to Mr. Winsky now, is that fair? So,
I got nothing. No, I got nothing.
no report?
No.
No report. Anything for Department of Health? Okay, hearing none. Executive Board, in the future, it'll
No
be my
big.
report.
Yep, no big kahuna.
That's all you have, Ms. Steffel?
That's all I got, no big kahuna.
Anything for the Executive Board? And to be fair, technically, it is absolutely my fault. We missed the meeting in April, but I assumed the mantle on April 1st, which was 24 hours before we would have met. So I'll accept 1/30th of the responsibility for that.
Yeah, okay. No, the only thing was is that we did have a meeting in March in regards to the program agency. And I'll pretty much come up with, which is what Brian will be discussing in new business, so.
Okay, so program agency report, there is none, because we don't have a program agency right now. Old business.
On the committee reports, if somebody didn't get the committee list or, would like me to send it to them, let me know individually and I'll write your names down and then I will, and write your email after that. And then, I'll go from there and resend it to you, okay? So, let me know.
Also, just for the committees before we go there, is the chairs are assembling the committees. Remember, we do have to make an announcement of the committee meetings. If it is conducted over a remote discussion, there has to be an accessible viewing site for the public. That's got to be part of the announcement. I want to make that as early as possible, but at least 24 hours notice, preferably more. So I don't think we've had a member of the public attend any of the committee meetings that have been announced, but we do have that obligation under the public officers law. So So a reminder to all of our chairs, please make sure we're making those announcements. If you need help with the announcements, Kevin Mahoney is happy to do it. He's got a routine down clean and can get all that out for us, including postings. Mr. Striker, you had some old business?
On old business, on the OSHA items, there's been some positive interaction in Washington DC. They're down there this week again at the table. We did end up getting a seat at the table. All the powers to be down there. 2.5, 3 weeks ago, they were down there as well. Positive things came out of that as also. So we're gonna have a report out on Friday amongst the coordinators, and OSHA's listening. The president actually is concerned. The new Secretary of Labor, which is very pro-labor, is concerned and understands. OSHA is also very open and talkative about it as well. So far, it's a positive.
A lot of the results we anticipated if the election went the way that it ultimately went. Fair. And
That's it.
any other old business? Okay, let's go new business. Anybody have anything before we do this program agency thing? Mr. Malpeque.
I've been getting emails to my personal email and the council assigned email. Are we supposed to only get it from one, or, I don't know if.
The problem is that a lot of people, Bill, don't use the council email, Bill.
Because it don't work.
And that's is some of the problems that some people have had, so therefore to just double check, Chris has been, it will send out to both emails.
Okay.
So even like me, I get it to both emails. And if you don't want it at all to your personal email, just let Chris know and he'll take you off that list. Okay, cause he's been good about that.
Alright.
And thing, because yeah, if you get it into your personal email, that is subject to a FOIL if we ever get a Freedom of Information request, okay?
Thank you.
Just
Yes.
as an aside to that, some comes to my personal email and some goes to the council email. So I think I'm on two different lists with two different people. Like I got the budget to my council email, and I got the agenda to my personal email.
Yeah, it was sent from two different people. One was for me, one was for Madonna.
And I have in the past copied his address lists and used that, and I wasn't, should we do it to both still? Is that the best thing to do, or do people don't want it that way?
Well, that's the problem, is that everybody
Yeah.
does something different, so Bill. So anyways,
So, when we get the
just to
ad,
pick on you,
We'll try it.
keep you humble.
I'm used to it by now.
we can clean that up very easily when we get the admin function for our email. We can go in, create the whole, the council, committees, everything else. Now we just have to email lists, and we control the lists on the other end. So we'll get that cleaned up. Bear with any confusion for the time being, and if you want your personal email removed, please email Mr. Zemrak and just say, please take this off of the list that you have, and we will do that. Anything else on email? Okay, Mr. Stryker, you had new business.
Two things, came to me, met with the sheriff today, there's stuff in the budget, and it's not clear what it actually means at the end of the day in regard to mental health transports. It seems to be a hot topic, across western New York, for working with my constituents as well, so I think it's something to keep an eye on. Face value, knee jerk, not necessarily the fact yet, is that all mental health are gonna have to be moved by ambulance versus law enforcement taking and stuff, so. That's problematic in different regions with a shortage of staff.
Look, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Speak up a little bit.
It's mental health transports.
Great.
The verbiage in the budget that was obviously approved states that all mental health transports are gonna have to go via ambulance.
Have you seen that language?
I have not. I just
So-
had a meeting today. I didn't even realize it was in the budget.
The language I read in the draft, and I've not seen a final version, did not say that they all have to go by ambulance. It said they can go by ambulance if deemed appropriate by the law enforcement or crisis services. So it's in both sections 9.41 and 9.45 of the mental hygiene law, but the draft didn't really change anything other than specify the mode of transport that was permissible when the removal of somebody under those circumstances was directed. So I think we should probably get a look at the law as amended and offer some
It
information.
puts a
on that.
lot of bearing on, and there's a lot of different moving pieces to it, you know. I know some counties have created a policy that if they're down to a certain status level, that they aren't gonna take mental health. So, and that's more of a county, whether it be a county run or a contracted service and stuff. So I'm not sure how you guys, you're on that, but there's some issues there, you know, trying to maintain the proper available service for your community versus taking these people around. Because 9 times out of 10, it doesn't necessarily meet medical necessity, and the cops follow you anyway. So, and I understand the other side of it, where sometimes that ratchets up that individual going through that crisis as well.
So it's
catch-22.
definitely a very big conversation. I think it's something that the systems committee could be asked to take a look at and provide some feedback on. Feedback I would offer just the committee as a whole, the council as a whole, get a look at the law first. Let's not operate on whatever it is. Like I said, the draft I saw said it can be an ambulance, not that it has to be an ambulance. So it's permissive as opposed to command language. That draft may have changed as things do in the budget. There are a lot of questions around mental health and mental hygiene transports and the appropriateness. The only advice I would give, whether it's a law enforcement agency or an EMS agency or whomever it is consider carefully all the implications and the nature. So mental health transports and mental hygiene transports, some of those do have acute medical problems as well. Some of them are strictly for evaluation and care. So I would be a little bit more careful over I would not issue a blanket policy saying, at this level, we're not doing this. It should be evaluated based on the presentation, emergency medical dispatch if you have it, and those needs. So,
I just bring up for information purposes.
yeah, I think it's a great thing to
It's
send
not
over to
clear.
systems.
And our sheriff is not clear on it. They're waiting for a ruling from their association.
And, I mean, the budget's fresh. I don't know that everything has been inked yet, so it's still a matter of getting some of the drafts that are in progress. What was your second thing, sir?
EMS week's coming up, and so in Wyoming County, we're doing our second annual baseball game, the ER versus our county EMS program. That's on May 17th. And then at our hospital, they're also doing something very similar to what Catholic Health does at all their facilities. The 19th, 20th, 21st, and 23rd, there'll be different types of snacks and meals at our ER at our local hospital to take care of any weight transports there. Obviously, Erie County doesn't play a big part in that, but, and then Catholic Health, I got that from Emily just the other day, and they're participating as well, they're different facilities, so.
I think all of the hospitals are pretty good about providing that. You know, it's the 1 week out of the year that, well, actually, they feed us all now, so we have the EMS room. So it's not even the 1 week out of the year we get fed. Everybody enjoy your hot dogs and bag of air with 1 Lay's chip in it.
You don't sound bitter at all.
Just don't have a good relationship with Lay's. I prefer Pringles. I make decisions. Thank you. Were you looking for a standby because your EMS agency and emergency department are gonna be out of service injuring each other in that game, or?
Last year, all they did is slide around in the mud all day.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, that's,
It was a nice time, everybody, I wasn't there personally, but everybody had a great time, and we're doing barbecues and everything this year.
that's awesome. Anybody else with anything for new business?
I don't know if this is new business or the program agency, but like when we were getting ready to send everything in, on the website, we're still using UBMD's address.
Yes.
And like Carol said, no, don't send it to them, because we'll never get it.
Well, that was misinformation. That
Oh,
was
okay,
people.
I just thought maybe we could update, if we're not having somebody monitor that, maybe we could update the website or.
UBMD is still providing us with a physical address. They will receive, scan, and distribute to us
Okay,
anything that comes
so
in.
there's somebody there that.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. UBMD did not close.
Right, but I didn't know how
Yep.
much they were assuming.
So in that, we'll cover that. With program agency, any other new business? Okay. Try and do this as succinctly as possible. Because of a lack of executed contract and payment from New York State, UBMD discontinued its service as a program agency. In doing so, they left Big Lakes and Wyoming-Erie without a program agency and a question about fulfilling those functions. For some interim work, we are able to handle some things internally, and we have to figure out what we need help with. So at least for the time being, I'm working on taking on some very simple tasks like website administration, the email stuff. I'm using my cell phone to record this meeting that I will upload to YouTube when I get the username and password. So those kind of elements that we're getting from UBMD support as a program agency, we can satisfy for now until we find another solution. Program agencies were issued award letters just before the state council meeting, so I think it was like Friday, 2 Fridays ago, something like that. It's a start of the process. It doesn't get everything flowing. It can take up to 6 months now for those awards to be granted, for the contracts to be executed, and for money to start to flow. There was not an increase in those awards in the amount paid to the program agency, despite the recommendations of the WEREMSCO and the finance committees. That amount came out, and I have not yet seen, but I'm told the recruitment and retention grants are still there at $15,000 per region, and the paramedic scholarship grants are still there at $20,000 per region, earmarked for 2 paramedic scholarships, one each up to $10,000. Those are contingent upon the program agency contract. So those things are processing. I'm also told that the process for obtaining those grants is pretty burdensome. It's going to require a significant amount of work. Again, haven't seen it yet, hoping to be able to get those. I did receive today from New York State a copy of the program agency deliverables. I've not yet reviewed it, so that will give a bigger picture of what actually has to be done in the process, in addition to the administrative assistance that we were getting as a council from the program agency. We have basically 2 options. So the contract that we've executed with New York State has as a deliverable contracting with a program agency. And the 2 options for contracting with a program agency are: 1, contract with an existing program agency. There's, I think, 17 left in New York State that we can contract with for service. Or 2, parent, as in function as our own program agency. So it would be starting a program agency under the council, being the parent of it, hiring somebody, basically having paid staff, getting that contract. Obviously, the risk there being if the contract dries up in 5 years again, like this one did, and the money doesn't flow through, we're in the same position that all the program agencies were for the last year. So not looking for a motion or decision at all tonight. There's a lot to consider and evaluate. There's a lot of information still coming in that I'm going to forward to the executive board and summarize to the extent possible, and try and formulate a recommendation around what our best solution is going forward, and bring that back for discussion and potentially a vote in July. I know there's a ton of like little nuanced stuff, so I just will open it up for questions and go from there. Mr. Malpeque.
Are there any other regional councils that do option number 2, as you spoke of?
Yes, there are several. Some that do it in partnership, like REMO and AREMS. They do it together. MILREMS is now, I believe, parenting, where they just separated. That was a strange relationship with some stuff that had to be clarified. I think Southern Tier does a good amount of that, even though it's separated by the healthcare system. So there are places that do parent it. Obviously, we can explore that with other agencies. That was it?
That was it.
Cool. Mr. Alsman?
What are the requirements for an agency to take on that role? They have to be not-for-profit, what's the?
So, it's a great question, and I've asked several times, and the answer was, they have to be not-for-profit and some other stuff. I'll get back to you. At some point, somebody will get back to me with an answer on that. I think this hasn't happened in so long that nobody knows the answer. So it's a matter of sorting that out. As far as what we can do, though, we already have a contract that says we will enter into a contractual relationship with either an existing program agency or we will parent our own. So it doesn't say in there that, you know, we will create another program agency or anything like that. So our contract is kind of narrow in terms of your question.
What kind of stock do you either go with somebody who's already there or do it ourselves?
Ms. McCarty?
So for what it's worth, I've dealt with Don at Southern Tier for years from my prior UCMC stuff, and they've got their ducks in a row down there. It's a pretty impressive with all the stuff that they have in Olean, I mean, even just a wide variety of things that they deal with, and that all of them, they do a good job.
I agree, Southern Tier. is
I
pretty
received
impressive.
a quote of $125 an hour from Southern Tier, is what I received, and, when I was reaching out and then was kinda yelled at because it's like, no, UBMD is still here, we're just not gonna be your program agency, but we're still here. And it's like, okay, yeah, don't go there. Yeah, it was,
Okay.
yeah, that's why it's like, oh, God bless, we have a real big kahuna.
Hang on, that has to be clarified. That was when there was no money coming from the state.
Right.
If we enter into a relationship with an existing program agency, they will be able to obtain the funding stream from New York State at whatever level it is. So without any other resource or funding is where that $125 an hour quote came from. If it is an expansion of a program agency, I believe those come out at 125 or 140,000 or more. There's some variance around the state. And obviously it's public information when we look up.
Yeah.
That changes it, because that's operating capital for being able to replicate work you're already doing. So an existing program agency certainly has an economy of scale in terms of both knowledge, skills, resources, and all that. The only thing that I think all of us would be interested in is if we could get an existing program agency to maybe add a staff member from our region who would specifically serve our region and be able to help us with that process.
The other thing to note also is that approximately, 5 or 6 years ago, Scott Wander from then ECMC, whatever it was,
Yeah.
the program agency at that time that morphed into UBMD, they were told at that particular point in time that the state didn't want as many program agencies as what currently were at that particular point in time. So by Big Lakes and us using UBMD, at least to cut down on one program agency, however, that still wasn't enough for them. And, it's interesting to hear all the rumors that are rotating around this program agency business, so.
I think it is important to say they are rumors. There's
Yes.
not necessarily evidence for a lot of that. It's what people believe through bias or bad information. Nobody's been able to confirm exactly where the problem lies or who we reach out to, so when we have more information, I'm sure we'll be asking all of you to join us in advocacy for program agencies in whatever form they take and pursuing fair reimbursement and a positive structure. Mr. Turner?
Couple of questions. What is the plan for Big Lakes? Do they know what they're leaning towards yet?
Big Lakes is exploring the same things we're exploring. I can tell you that Big Lakes Chair and I met with state data. One of the things that came up is program agencies have to sign the Form 5136, which is around EPCR and submissions. I had polled our executive council and said, does anybody have a problem with me signing this? And they're basically using state data and informatics as tech support to help them. Everybody was good with it, and the data informatics chair, Peter Brody, is good with it as well. So we're kind of moving together on this. I wouldn't suggest in lockstep, but moving in the same direction, and it's still exploratory. Nobody yet knows exactly what the scope of it looks like, and because the contracts haven't actually been executed, it's still preliminary. We're all kind of wondering what's gonna happen.
The other thing is, have we figured out what UB owns and what we own? Like in terms of, some of the AV equipment or the mailing lists and things like that?
So,
Or the portal, has it been all?
so we own all of our intellectual property, which would be our website, our distribution lists, our email domain, basically everything that's under our name that belongs to us. I don't believe UBMD possessed any physical assets that we had, but I don't know.
I can probably answer that since I did work there. The AV equipment, the owls and all that stuff, that was bought off their contract money.
Right.
So technically, because it was over a certain amount of money, the state of New York actually owns that equipment for, I think it's 4 or 5 years.
So all of the owls and stuff like that, there's 2 owls, that's their property under that contract. So technically New York State's. And then, they had the interactive monitor in the office, same deal. So I guess the bigger question here is, my question is their website. Because I do believe the council paid into the website, over time. So, you know,
Which, what are you talking?
the actual UBMD site.
You mean the
with all of
portal?
The portal, yeah.
Okay.
Because didn't we pay in for some of the upgrades and all that stuff?
So-
So my question is if we paid for that, they have sovereign control over that right now, why can't we still push announcements through that website since the council did pay for a portion of that?
So you're actually looking at a couple of different things. You're looking at email distribution list, which I'm certain they're gonna make available to us, and we can run that sign up and distribution through our website without a problem. If you're looking at the portal, I believe what all councils that use the portal were paying was in essence a subscription fee. So UBMD has owned that as their own intellectual property, I will confirm that. But they've also said that they are not certain they want to discontinue it. UBMD's been polling agencies to say, is this something that you want? Is it of benefit, and go from there. It still exists right now, it hasn't been discontinued. Everything is kind of going forward with the exception of the program agency specific employees and active processes. So anything that could exist in the background as a passive project has continued to exist. UBMD has not disrupted anything.
So I understand that. I guess my question is I know that their listserv is built into the portal. So when I pushed announcements out, when I worked there, I did it through the portal. So my question is, if they're gonna give you access, administrative access to do that through the portal, it would make things a lot easier.
So, maybe. It's definitely on the list of questions to get information about. There's been no hostility. They're not trying to harm the council, they're not trying to harm anybody in our region. It's just a practice they could not continue without the reimbursement, and they just decided that that was enough. It's a lot of money between 2 councils to not have been paid over a year, and with no guarantee going forward, they were not willing to take that risk, and I understand that. But they've been very cooperative, and like I said, with the list of deliverables and everything else now, we can obtain access to that. I would think, if nothing else, if for some reason they are gonna discontinue the portal, that they would be willing to at least export for us all of the contact information, and we can use that to populate a different email distribution system. Does that hopefully answer some of the questions?
Yeah, I just know pushing those announcements through the portal is very easy to do. So if they would at least give you access to do that through the portal, that would be phenomenal.
So ideally, there are some tools that you can embed into a website, and my preference would be to put it into our website so people can self-subscribe to it and they can self-unsubscribe to it, and we just use that as the distribution, so we're not managing. People will be able to control their own email, and we can go that way. But starting with the addresses from the portal, I think would be beneficial.
I mean, to me, that's like the top of my list right now. We had a meeting today where we talked about it. Our registrations are down across the board for all of our training classes. I think it's a direct result of there's not a spot to go looking for training. You know, we're talking about the awards. Erie County has no awards. And granted, you know, that every year they seem to have this song and dance trying to beg people to put an application in, but I like to think it's probably associated with it as well. You know, job applications I think have been down too for us when we've tried this thing out. I would love to get that up and going as quick as possible. If they have a list of names of people who want it, but if we can somehow get them faster.
Yeah, we will prioritize that communication and find a way to get it done. Other questions related to program agency functions?
If one program agency is parenting their own, is another able to go through them as well? Is another?
It's a great question. So if one WEREMSCO is parenting their own program agency, can another WEREMSCO contract with that program agency? And my answer is, I'll ask. That's a maybe, right? It depends on the structure. I know that Appalachian Adirondacks and Remo share a program agency, and I believe it is parented. Ms. Ronsky, do you know for sure? Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot. I believe it is, I think it was originally parented by WEREMS, and then they kind of came together. So there's a possibility too, if we want to move in that direction, that we could partner with Big Lakes to parent one jointly. That might be an option too.
Just for the new people, when we did the last contract with UBMD, number one, the previous contract was never signed by the chair of the council. So basically, we were operating with an unsigned contract. So we got that kind of figured out. But then what we did is I decided that because of the amount of money, it would be best to do a request for proposals. We received 3 proposals through putting out an RFP, one from UBMD, one from STEMS, and then one from Catholic Health. The Catholic Health one was a difficult one because they are not a contracted program agency. However, the UBMD one came in at less money and offering the same services as what STEMS and Catholic Health was. It was UBMD, then Catholic Health, then STEMS, as far as the amount that it was gonna cost the council. And so therefore, the decision was to go with UBMD, which was already a contracted, existing program agency. It'll be interesting to see about putting up a parented program agency. And if I am not mistaken, Ann, I think you're the next historian here, and Madonna maybe, but isn't that what happened prior to the dissolution and the splitting of the councils prior? And there was a little bit of fraud and fraudulent activity that took place. So, and lawsuits ensued from it. So it's something that if we do look at doing, it's gonna have to be done very carefully.
Mr. Turner?
Another thing, probably shared equally with Lisa, has there been any talks with the state to streamline communication to maybe you instead of program agency? For example, when the new A&T practice skills manual was pushed out, it was pushed out to program agencies and we didn't have them, so we didn't know about it.
So from 15 days ago or so going forward, yes. But before then,
Yeah.
if there's something specific you want me to get, I can easily.
No,
get.
it's something we want to get, but whatever we may be missing, we don't even know we're missing.
So everything that's going to the program agencies now, I've been added to that list,
Okay.
including the program agency meetings and those things.
Perfect.
Okay, so I suppose the last thing was Ms. Barber had something about Q4.
Yes. Oh, wait a second, one more thing on this program agency deal. I did send a letter off to the Commissioner for the Department of Health, the Office of the State Controller, and also the Division of Budget in regards to this, and stated within that letter that we are a volunteer council, that nobody gets paid here, and that you're putting more on EMS people when retention and recruitment is so hard right now to maintain. So, I did. I just sent out the wrong letter about 5 times prior, but that's okay. That was an old brain fart thing, so. I eventually got it right, I think.
I think we accidentally were sent an invoice that somebody else should have received, so we don't have anything else on Q4.
It's the same price information.
I'll contact them.
Just mistake.
Yeah, I'll contact them, so this is, if there's more about that, I'll bring it up at the next meeting. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion,
Just real quick, the money that we paid in the previous quarters for the update to the LMS system, obviously it wasn't updated. Are we gonna get a refund on that money?
we did not pay it.
Oh, we did not pay it?
We did not
Okay.
pay it, and we just moved it tonight back from the line where
Okay,
we were
I
gonna
thought
pay
that
it
was the
to.
fourth payment, okay.
No, so we approved it at our last meeting. We did not pay it because of the time immediately afterwards that we found out about the change.
Moving to adjourn.
So it never moved. Motion to adjourn from Sue, second from Amy.
Mary Beth.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, just kidding.
Next meeting?
Good night, everybody.